Here we see an expanded framework for Kirkpatrick's model. At level 1 is reaction criteria. These are affective because they reflect attitudes or opinions or emotional responses that individuals have to the training or learning intervention. These can address how much the trainees liked or disliked the training. It could also address how useful they thought the training was. This type of data is important. It helps us to gauge how people are receiving the training, and the attitudes that they have about the learning experience are likely to affect how much they learn and whether they carry that over to behavior in the workplace that results in bottom line impact to the organization. But those other criteria are important to measure independently of these reactions. So we shouldn't just stop at reactions because their value, while important, is limited. The second level of Kirkpatrick's model is learning. This is a cognitive criteria. Here we can look at what people understand or know after the training is completed. And when we gauge this knowledge is important, because if we do it immediately after the training, that may give us a different measure of learning than if we wait a month or 2 months after that intervention. Waiting longer might not give us as favorable of criteria in terms of the impact of our training, but it might be more meaningful in terms of what our trainees are taking away in the long run. The third level of Kirkpatrick's criteria is the behavioral or the skill level. And here we're looking at whether people have the ability to enact or behave in the way that we want them to on the job. We can measure this in the near term or in the long term. We can look at training performance immediately at the end of that training, and that might be an important thing for us to gauge, but ultimately we want to know how people perform in the long run and whether those behaviors that they're exhibiting back on the job are being influenced by this learning experience. And then the fourth level of Kirkpatrick's model is results. Usually when we think about results, we're thinking about the financial results. Ultimately, is the organization realizing better financial performance as a result of this training? But we can expand that because results don't just mean financial results. They can be relevant to safety. Are our employees acting in a way that reduces accidents? That may be an important result that we want to realize. If we're looking at something like diversity and inclusion training, we might want to know about whether we're actually having results on how our employees are experiencing the workplace and whether there truly is equal opportunity in that workplace. It becomes more difficult, again, to measure these criteria in Kirkpatrick's model when we get beyond simple reactions, or if we get beyond those measures that are taken immediately at the end of the training. But if we want to truly gauge the impact of human resource development, it's important that we take on that challenge and measure these criteria even when they're a bit more difficult to access the data that we need.